Hi, I'm Meg.
And I'm David.
Welcome to The Average Vegans, a podcast to help you live an attainable vegan lifestyle. We're not the ripped influencer vegans you hear about in other podcasts. We're just some ordinary people living in the South, eating plants and loving animals. In this episode, we have a wonderful interview with a lovely lady named Annick Ireland, the founder and CEO of ImmaculateVegan.com. It's a leading global premium marketplace for vegan, ethical, and sustainable fashion, beauty, and homeware. And I have spent quite a bit of time over the past few weeks exploring all the products on your website and falling in love. I even have like a list of things that I'd like to get. Going to be on my Christmas list for sure.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. I know that it is late at night for you, so we are very appreciative. This is going to be a fun interview, I think.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, so we want to hear about Immaculate Vegan. We want to hear all about the brand. How would you describe it to someone? And of course, like, where did this concept come from?
Yeah. Okay, so how would I describe it? I kind of describe it differently depending on who I'm talking to. So if we're talking to potential investors, I say we're a vegan net-a-porter because people kind of get that and they go, oh yeah, that sounds like it's going to be really massive. That's very exciting. If I'm talking, I guess, to my friends, I say, look, I'm trying to make it really simple. I say I basically run a vegan, ethical and sustainable fashion store. Just think of it as an amazing department store. It's got all the lovely things that, you might want to buy for your home, for clothing, for beauty. But, the beauty is it's all vegan, it's all ethical, and it's all sustainable. So I guess that's maybe the simplest way to think about this. We're just this wonderful vegan, hopefully, premium, we are fairly high-end department store.
I love that. That is perfect. And again, like, it's not just fashion, you have other stuff on there.
It's not just fashion. Yeah. So I guess, fashion is probably our core area. And I think that's just because that's something that I know, being a vegan myself, is one of the areas that vegans, and actually just anyone, I think, wanting to make better fashion choices really struggles with, because obviously there is so much leather in the fashion industry, right. Particularly shoes, bags, accessories. But then, of course, there's wool, there's silk, there's, hopefully not so much fur anymore, but still, when it comes to outerwear, there's down. So there's all these animal materials in fashion that I think make it really problematic for people who want to buy animal free. But since then, we have expanded out. So we do have beauty products. We've got some lovely homeware products as well, whether that's people wanting to buy candles that aren't full of beeswax or nasty petrochemicals. And also lovely blankets and throws that are really soft and warm but aren't made of wool. So we have lots of lovely things. Yeah,
that's the hardest thing too, is not only finding a vegan option, but a quality vegan option. That's especially with like wallets and belts, which is something I need at both in place. I get a belt and a wallet, they'll fall apart and just start peeling within like a week or two of having
it. Exactly. And I think sometimes when you talk to somebody about vegan fashion, one of the first things they think about is, is that all that really nasty PVC stuff? It's plastic, it's poor quality. It's not as quality as real leather.
Right.
And that, I think, is such a misconception out there. There is, of course, lots of really cheap, nasty stuff, just like there is lots of cheap, nasty, non-vegan stuff, right?
Exactly.
But I think it is fair to say that, until relatively recently, people wanting to buy things that were high quality have struggled. What I've noticed certainly in the last few years of Immaculate Vegan is that the growth in really high quality, beautiful brands now is amazing. So there genuinely are amazing brands out there producing beautiful things. And what's helped is the growth of really high quality vegan leathers now that are also much more sustainable than the ones of the past, but are genuinely, I think, a much higher quality product as well.
Right. And that's actually one of our questions, because I'm so interested in the materials that are used in your products. I'm fascinated by the cactus leather. I think it just looks really neat for some reason. It looks different to me. So I'm so curious about what vegan material have you been so most impressed with?
Yeah, so I think, in fact, this is just for the benefit of you guys, because obviously your listeners can't see it, but I'm showing you this, for the benefits of the audio, I'm showing this beautiful cactus leather bag. This is currently my favorite. This is by a brand called Frida Rome.
So pretty.
And honestly, you feel it, and it's just like, it is like I think, extremely high quality animal leather in terms of look and feel. But actually, it's got the benefit of being much more water resistant. So one of the real downsides to animal leather, apart from obviously being very cruel, and actually very unsustainable as well, is that it reacts very badly to water, right? So it rots, it reacts badly to moisture as well as kind of pure wetness. Whereas cactus leather doesn't. It's really water resistant. So it's a really beautiful high quality leather. I also love it because it's super sustainable in terms of cactuses require very little water. They grow organically. They don't need pesticides. So cactus leather, I think, is definitely up there for me. I also really love apple leather. I've got a few apple leather products. Again, also very high quality, great look and feel. It can be treated to look like an animal leather or a suede. It takes color brilliantly. And it's made from a pure waste product, which is the apple skins and pulp from the apple juicing industry.
Wow.
Which that's so
otherwise be just thrown away. So all of a sudden you're creating, you're getting this waste material, you're giving farmers another source of income, and you're turning it into this fantastic material that means that animals don't have to be slaughtered. So it's just it's such a win, right?
Yeah. We recently, David, talk about banana leather using like the banana peels and stuff as well. I find that so fascinating, using something that would just have been waste to make something sustainable and beautiful is so interesting and great.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, we have we don't have banana leather products, but we've got mango leather, we've got wine leather, which is from grape skins from the wine industry.
Whoa.
We've got Pinatex, which is from pineapple leaves from the pineapple industry, again another waste product. We have cork leather, which is really sustainable as well. So there are so many now. I think that's the really amazing thing, that there really is a lot of choice. And there's a lot of companies that are just making the materials now that are getting a lot of investment as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really exciting area. Yeah. Very, very innovative.
When it comes to different leathers made from plant materials such as like the cactus leather and apple leather, things like that, do certain leather materials have benefits or downsides than others, like as far as like what they're made with, or they said the same benefits and issues?
So it's a good question. They are a bit different. So I think one thing to just be very open and transparent about is most of them will have some level of polyurethane in, and polyurethane is a plastic.
Sure.
So it's not PVC, and for example, at Immaculate Vegan, we have a no PVC policy because PVC is really toxic.
Very.
Most of the vegan leathers will have some element of polyurethane in. Now, polyurethane is nowhere near as bad as PVC, and the brands who we use manufacture in Europe, where there are very, very strict controls on emissions. The reason it's used is because it gives it structure and it gives it durability. And obviously that's quite important if you're going up against animal leather. Right. It is important to say, so while it is a plastic, if you compare it to animal leather, from purely just sustainability, it has about a third of the impact of animal leather. So again, as a comparison, if you use it as an alternative, it is far superior in terms of sustainability than animal leather. And of course, it's far superior in terms of ethics because no animals are being killed.
Right.
Is it perfect? Not at all. Of course, it's absolutely not perfect. Say that there aren't any perfect vegan leathers out there. So most of them do have some level of a type of plastic in them, which is polyurethane. And that's really there to give them structure and durability. So, are they perfect? No, they're not. But are they better than animal leather? Yes. So,
absolutely.
Even polyurethane has only a third of the impact of animal leather in terms of sustainability. And of course, no animals are killed to produce it. So, as an alternative, I think it's a good alternative. But obviously, the more bio-based materials in the leather, that's kind of what we look for.
Right.
Is there like an upcoming vegan material that you're excited about? Like, I'm so curious about these different options. I've never heard of the majority of the things you've mentioned so far. So,
well, so the one I'm really excited about that we've just got some products at Immaculate Vegan in is Grape Leather by a company called Vegea. And the brand that's using it is called Bohema. They've got beautiful loafers, chunky boots, gorgeous stilettos, all made from this grape leather. So I'm very excited about that. That's pretty new. The two materials that I haven't seen yet really used much commercially are mushroom leather, and there's a couple of really big manufacturers making mushroom leather that are in talks with the likes of Hermes, Stella McCartney. I think they're going to be used for cars as well, sort of luxury car interiors. So mushroom leather is a really exciting material, but it's not really widely used commercially yet.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that. And then the other one is I think the brand might be called Tree Kind. I'm not sure, but basically it's leather made from leaves. And what I'm very excited about is, again, waste product. We all have leaves.
Yeah.
Right.
But apparently it's purely plant-based, I've heard. So no plastics in it at all, which would be very exciting and very, very different. Yeah. So that, that's what I mean. There's so much innovation in this area. Like every day you kind of hear of a new, right? It's so boring. It's so century, so last millennia.
And I'm just so curious, is there like where did this passion for sustainable vegan fashion come from? Like, where did this come from for you? I just find that fascinating that this is your life mission. Like, where did that sustain from?
It became vegan really, which was several years ago. I was working I worked marketing, and I wasn't doing my tool. And I just started looking for vegan alternatives, as you do. And while I found the food about so there were, started like kind of stuff I was, oh no, this is going to be really hard. It wasn't kind of beautifully made, fashionable items. So I think it started with me really when I became vegan. So this was just over 6 years ago. And I wasn't working in anything to do with fashion or veganism at all. But I just started searching really for, not vegan shoes, vegan bags, stuff that I wanted to find alternatives for. And I just found some really horrific stuff, really. So it's very disappointing, right? But just like, very frumpy shoes and nothing that I would sort of describe as like lovely fashion at all. And I just thought this can't be right. So I just spent a long time really researching, mainly on Instagram, all the vegan brands that I could find. And actually, it all ended up, good in the end, because what I did find was that there were lots of really beautiful brands out there, but they were just really hard to find,
Right.
And so I was pretty dedicated about this. I thought I spent a long time looking for this stuff. What I wouldn't want is anybody to think, what, I'll maybe give vegan fashion a go and just be put off because they thought, it's rubbish, it's not very nice. So I'll just go back to buying animal leather. So that's really what I didn't want to happen. So it kind of started from there, really, just that desire to show people that they will, you can love fashion, you can love nice quality things, and you can still be ethical and sustainable as well. So I just started a blog at the time. I did it in my spare time, and I called it Immaculate Vegan. And it was that really, you could look immaculate and you could be immaculate.
I love that.
And it was just, and that was kind of the idea. And it was just trying to really challenge the, what I thought and still think are misconceptions about vegan fashion. And then it just really took off. So I got brands contacting me saying, I love your feeds, can I be featured? Because I guess what I was doing was providing a platform for them that made them look really good as well, where they could be alongside other beautiful brands like them. And then I had people contacting me saying, I love this stuff, I had no idea it existed, and where can I buy it? And then I thought, I think there's really an opportunity here to bring all these brands together and create a really beautiful storefront and also a platform that can help hopefully inform and inspire people around vegan fashion as well, because that was really important to me. So I guess what I'm most driven by is not helping vegans find nice things. Of course, that's very lovely. But actually it's about persuading somebody who maybe hasn't thought about their leather handbag and then thinks twice about it because they think, I don't like the sound of leather now. That sounds pretty horrible to me. And I had no idea that there's this really sexy new thing called cactus leather. Like, wow, I'll give that a try, That's the kind of stuff I want to happen, really. Because if we persuade most non-vegans to try some vegan stuff, ultimately that's going to have a much bigger impact than a few more people going vegan ultimately. So that's really what I think what we really want to do.
That I agree. Yeah, showing them that they can get these beautiful products and not have to hurt an animal to get them, I think it's a huge selling point. I mean, why would you not want that benefit? So you mentioned you went vegan like 6 years ago. So we ask all of our guests that we interview, like, why did you make that change? What drove you to going vegan?
Yeah, so mine was quite simple in a way. It was my dog. So so a few years prior to that, I'd got a retired rescue greyhound. Who she's unfortunately she died last year, but we have another one, so it's all okay. But she was just the most like lovely creature, and I hadn't really had a pet since I was young, and it just basically made, I think it just kind of got that connection going in my head about, she's an animal, and I love her to pieces, and if anything happened to her or if anyone hurt her, I would be devastated. And yet there was I being very hypocritical, doing exactly the same, causing harm to other animals who were no sort of less precious than she was. So that's something that clicked for me there. And I initially just went vegetarian, and then just sort of, I think once I became vegetarian, I then found it easier to educate myself about dairy, because I think prior to that, I probably just didn't let myself, because, it's pretty horrific, isn't it? And no one wants to feel that they're doing something awful.
All right, so my next question is, we have seen like a few major brands go fur free, or like vow to go fur free. Like, are you surprised by that, and do you think that's going to be becoming a trend? Because I think that's pretty amazing, but I was surprised that so many major brands are making this move.
I'm not surprised they're fur free. I'm actually incredibly surprised it's taken this long, considering how actually I think fur is one of the materials where the popular opinion has been against it for a very, very long time. It started with, do you remember those PETA ads? Yes. In the 80s with Naomi Campbell and, the supermodel saying, I'd rather go naked than wear fur, that kind of stuff, right? So I think the anti-fur movement started a long time ago, which is why I think it's so surprising that the luxury brands were still hanging on. I guess, so yeah, so it's great. Is it a trend? I mean, I think, I'd like to think they've stopped doing it because they think it's cruel and nasty. Unfortunately, yeah, they're doing it, I think, because they realize that people really don't want it, and it's making them look, not only cruel, but actually it's making them look old-fashioned. And I think the last thing a luxury fashion house wants to look like is old-fashioned. I think the learning for that is the same has to be done with leather and with wool. I don't think what will make people go off it is necessarily the cruelty, or at least, not for a lot of people. But if they think it's unfashionable, if they think it makes you look traditional, I mean, that's why a lot of people love the new vegan leathers, because actually they are sexy and cool and innovative. And I think that's how kind of vegan fashion needs to market itself, as being a really attractive alternative. I think, if we go on too much about how it's the better option, yeah, of course it is, and that will appeal to a lot of people, but actually it also needs to be the sexier, more interesting option as well. And I think that will kind of help get the masses behind it.
Right. I think, and if the fashion appeal and the quality is there, even a non-vegan consumer will purchase it, and then also opens up for a whole nother area of a consumer in the vegan community.
I think that's exactly right. And I mean, we've seen that with fast fashion brands like, H&M. Now they've got a cactus leather collection. Again, is there a lot of greenwashing there? Yeah, of course it is, because, it's probably still being made by the same fairly unethical labor practices.
Right.
Exactly.
But the really good thing about it is taking it mainstream, and it is making it sexy and interesting to a whole group of people that won't be vegan, that will now look at it in a new light. So I think that is really positive.
I wonder what's going to come from that. I'm so curious. Like, are they going to expand this line, or is that like going to be their only offer into this kind of?
Yeah, I don't know. Community? I mean, I've just been noticing their adverts more, and they've definitely been. I mean, they're definitely going for the whole sustainability angle. Again, like, whether you believe it or not is another thing. But but it does seem that more and more brands are using that. I mean, you look at what's happening at the moment with COP26, right? I've seen more adverts on TV now where big brands are talking about, what their plans are to move towards net zero. And obviously the elephant in the room in that is animal agriculture, which people aren't really sort of talking that much about at all. But I think that will come. So I think, brands are waking up to the fact that if they want to attract consumers, I think there's only one direction with all of this. Honestly, I really do. I think it is about going animal free.
You had mentioned earlier about you look out for the amount of plastics that are in the products you have on the site, and you also mentioned briefly like labor practices. So, are there what are the different levels of qualifications or quality levels that you use when you're selecting products that are on the site?
Yeah, so we're not an auditing body, right? So what we don't do is we don't go into factories or look at what brands are doing in that kind of sense. We really rely on what they tell us.
Sure.
Unless, of course, I mean, there are certain accreditations around things, like many of our brands do have, they're accredited by PETA or they're the Vegan Society. So there are things like that. But generally, we look at 4 things, and this is what we quiz brands on. So one is obviously all their products have to be vegan, all the ones they sell with us. But we also look at how sustainable those materials are. So that's the kind of stuff I just talked about with the vegan leathers, for example. Sure. Or it might be, if it's clothing, it's, are they using things like organic cotton or linen or tencel, lyocell or modal, which are really sort of sustainable forms of viscose, essentially, sort of cellulose kind of fabrics. Very cool. So there are lots of, sustainable materials that brands can use. So we look at that. We also ask them about where their products are made and who they're made by. And that's where we talk to them about things like, where are your factories? Who do you employ? Right. How are they paid? Are they paid, above a living wage? How are they treated? So that, everything around the people that make their products. We also ask them about their manufacturing. So we look for brands that use the most sustainable manufacturing processes that are out there. And they can differ, but that might mean things like working with factories that are solar powered, or that use closed loop technology, so where everything's recycled within the factory, so they're minimizing use of water and dyes and things like that. And then the last thing we look at is packaging. So are they using, again, as sustainable packaging as possible? So plastic free, recycled, recyclable. So it's that whole kind of end-to-end process, really. Most of our brands are small. So the really good thing is they don't have big complex supply chains where they don't know this stuff. They know the factories they work with, they know the people, they know their names, they go and visit them. I mean, quite often they're not even factories, they're workshops, and they call their workers artisans. So it is a very different kind of environment, I would say, when you compare it to mainstream, high street fashion brands.
Wow, that takes a lot of work, I'm assuming, to pick brands to include into the Immaculate Vegan website. Are there any specific ones that you think we should be looking out for, especially for someone who's like starting to build a sustainable vegan wardrobe? Like what brands should they look for?
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. I mean, because there are so many lovely ones. Okay, so first of all, are most of your audience based in the US? Because this will sort of define whether I give you more US brands or international brands.
We are basically mostly listeners are in the US. We do have a lot of international listeners, but the base are US.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, I'll give you a couple. So I'll give you a couple of UK brands, but I know they do free US shipping. So your listeners can still get them really easy. So there's a shoe brand called All Kind, which I love because they have just the most perfect capsule collection. So the perfect knee-high boots, ankle boots, loafers, stiletto heels, just every kind of type of shoe. They've got the perfect version of it. Very classic, the kind of thing, you'd have it forever, basically, very seasonless. So I love them. And then another brand that I really love are a trainers brand called Yate. So trainers are definitely our most bought category at Immaculate Vegan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this is a lovely brand. They're sort of very much loved by lots of celebrities, like David Beckham, wears a lot of their trainers. And they're an Italian brand, but again, they ship worldwide and they ship free to the US. They've got a very extensive collection, and they use their own proprietary leather, vegan leather, which is made out of biopolyols, so cereal crops. So all of their materials are either plant-based or they're recycled. They use a lot of recycled materials as well. So they're incredibly sustainable, but they're also really high fashion. You look at their trainers and they're very classic, they're minimalist. So they'll last you forever, but they just look like a really luxury pair of trainers, in that most people would not think they're vegan trainers, So it's those brands I think you'd be really surprised to hear that they're vegan. Those are, just because they look so amazing.
Yeah, I love that it's not obvious, like it probably was years ago when they started making some kind of vegan shoes. I'm sure it probably is a little bit more obvious, but I love that now they just look like every other shoe. And so I saw in some of the stats that were we talked about before this, that there's a lot of non-vegans that want to purchase vegan products. I'm so curious, what do you think the psychology is around that? Like, why is it important for a non-vegan to, like, why do they find it important to purchase a vegan product, like a vegan material, like a vegan leather, but they won't eat a vegan diet? I don't understand.
Well, do you know, I think it is sort of actually the same as in food. So I think there's a lot of people that will, they're not vegan, but they're trying to incorporate more plant-based into their diets, right? So there might be a meat-free Monday, or maybe they'll do vegan lunches, or vegan during the week and not the week. They'll have cheat weekends or whatever it is. I think most people now are fairly concerned about the climate crisis, and that I think is a lot of one of the biggest impetus really for people trying certainly vegan food, I think. And then also because I think they start by being interested in food, and then they kind of get interested in fashion as well. So I think it's just about that idea of having a little bit of vegan. People don't feel they can quite make what they see as the sacrifice of being entirely vegan. It's having that little bit that makes them feel better, and genuinely that that is doing better, right? It does make a difference. So I think that's a big part of it. I think also though it's become cool, right? So veganism didn't used to be cool. It used to be things that well, again, like going back to all the sort of the stereotypes, right? It was hippies on a commune wearing hemp sacks and eating sprouts. I don't think it was ever like that, but that was the kind of view. And I think suddenly veganism has become really cool, and you've got loads of vegan celebrities, and it's become cool because of the environment as well. So I think in the same way vegan fashion has become cool, and people like the idea of cactus leather, apple leather, vegan burger. I think it's the same kind of thing to a certain extent.
I wonder if there's there's probably a bunch of actual vegans who eat vegan food but don't or haven't considered the clothes they wear, clothes they buy. So I think this is a great way to kind of segment them into this part of being vegan as well. So I'm curious, do you have any tips for someone that wants to start this sustainable vegan wardrobe? Where do you start with that?
Where do you start? So what I would say is don't start by throwing out your stuff and going to buy new stuff, right? Because that is not sustainable. I think some people do think that, I've got this leather, I've just got to get rid of it and immediately go and buy lots of new things. And obviously that's not sustainable, right? So I'll just say wear what you have and wear it out. And then when you're looking for something new, that's the point to start. I think I would start with the staples, start with your basics, whatever that is for you. So for me, it was a nice pair of flat shoes, a nice pair of trainers, a nice pair of boots, a tote bag, right? The kind of the things that you'll have every single day, you'll constantly wear out. Because also if they're staples, they're things that you're hopefully going to be able to spend a bit more money on, because you'll get so much wear out of them. And that means you'll be able to invest in something that's, using a really nice plant-based leather as opposed to, a more plasticky thing, for example. And then of course everyone will notice how gorgeous you look and how lovely your things are, and they'll ask you about them and you'll say they're vegan, and people will be so surprised and they'll want to go buy them as well. So you'll be a role model for vegan fashion as well. Start with some just really good quality basics, and just I'd say then spend the most you can on those basics, knowing that hopefully they'll last you a really long time and you'll love them.
And that brings me to, what basics on your website would you recommend for someone starting a wardrobe? Because you do have a lot of those beautiful basics, but also the fancy stuff to add a little flavor to your wardrobe. So are there specific products that you would recommend?
So for me it would be a pair of the Yatte trainers. I would say they're my favorites, but I would mix and match, right? So Yatte is pretty expensive, but then I'd look at Expressions NYC for maybe a nice tote bag or a nice backpack.
Okay.
And then another brand I really love are called Good Guys Don't Wear Leather. They're based actually between France and LA.
Great name.
Great name, right? They are the coolest people in the world, the two female founders. And they just have the most gorgeous collection, including some sort of Dr. Martin Chelsea boot-like kind of boots. They're handmade in Italy. made from a bio leather. They are absolutely stunning. They are an investment piece, but just like you could have a pair of DMs and they'd last you 20 years, these will last you 20 years.
Exactly.
So I think, I'd start with just like an amazing pair of boots that are just, you can wear them, for years and years and years. So that's probably where I'd go.
Now I'm gonna have to go.
So much good stuff. I know. I can't. Honestly, I have to stop myself from looking at my own website, because otherwise I'd have no money ever. I would just buy everything.
I have it pulled up right now. Every time you mention something interesting, I go, ooh, let's go click on that. Look at that.
And we have lots of nice men's stuff too now.
We do, actually,
it's still small compared to women, so I'm sorry about that, but I promise you we're going to grow it and grow it as well.
I was going to ask, is there like a product or an avenue that you're going into in the future?
Yeah. Definitely growing men. It's been really nice, actually, just how we don't market to men at all. It's been nice how many men find our site and are buying stuff from us. So we'll definitely grow men. And we're also going to start Immaculate Kids as well. So I think that's another area. We get a lot of questions about that, particularly people trying to buy, shoes for their kids, or, maybe school shoes. They want to buy nice school shoes, but they don't want to buy leather. So that's another avenue. And in fact, we have got our first brand that does have some kids' clothing. I should have mentioned them. They're called Will's Vegan Store. They also do free shipping globally. And they have a really big men's section as well, including lovely vegan leather jackets, which are, they are gorgeous.
Oh, David.
Yeah. Sorry about that, David. That's your Christmas list.
Exactly.
Exactly, right?
See, that's why this interview is a great time, because now we can go shop.
I need a wallet. Exactly. I'm just saying, hint, hint. What's up?
You do. His wallet just broke recently, so I know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, well, if you're looking for a wallet, Watson and Wolf are an amazing men's brand. They do beautiful belts and beautiful wallets. So they're one of my favorite brands for that. Yeah, they're really nice. They also use a bio-based leather as well, which is really lovely.
Yeah, and even like the pricing, because wallets tend to be quite expensive, especially like leather or even faux leather ones. And like pricing is a lot. It's actually a little lower than I would expect for the higher fashion quality too, which is nice.
I think, I mean, that's great to hear. I mean, I think you're right when. Look, it's definitely not fast fashion prices, but if you're comparing it to the equivalent of a non-vegan brand, I think actually our brands do really well to try and keep their prices as affordable as they can.
Oh, for sure.
While, obviously.
Sorry about that. Oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm here. I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I noticed. Like I said, I need a wallet and belts. I was like looking at wallets and belts. I was like the prices, because again, it's easy to go to like a Target and get like a cheap faux leather belt in like what I have on right now, and it falls apart in a few months. I'm like,
exactly.
Oh, God, if I have to actually I have to wear something nice with this belt, and you can see it's gonna look terrible. And so it is refreshing, like I say, to see some of the products on here that are reasonably priced, that are higher quality, that I know that's not going to happen. Because usually if you want to go to that level, you're getting like even for a wallet, you're getting three three digits in at minimum.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So actually, I think these are they're hopefully really affordable for the kind of quality that they are.
For sure.
Which is really high. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about fashion, and I know that's what your expertise is, but we do like to talk about food a little bit. So I do want to ask, we are more for people that are newly vegan or thinking about going vegan. So we always like to ask if you have like any tips for someone that is going to venture into following a vegan diet in that kind of world, because it can be intimidating. So we love to collect different tips from people to see what you would recommend.
Yeah. So, well, look, first, I mean, I love food and I can talk about food forever. I'm also a terrible cook, and I'm a very lazy cook. So I have no patience at all. I basically just throw things together. I mean, my number one tip would just be to make it as, if you're a newbie, just make it as easy for yourself as you possibly can, right? So if you're going vegan, this is not the time to also decide to do something else radical, right? Like if you don't cook at all, to suddenly become the best cook in the world, or, if you eat unhealthily, suddenly to never eat a single carb again, or, because that would just be too much. So I think it's just make it easy for yourself, whatever that means, right? If that for you means switching to meat alternatives, like fine, don't beat yourself up about that. They taste delicious. You know, I'm a massive fan of a vegan burger and a vegan hot dog. You know, or if that for you, you know, for you, that means just making sandwiches, fine, make some sandwiches. You know, it doesn't really matter, I think, because you're still doing, you know, you're still improving your health just by cutting out meat and dairy. And you're still doing a brilliant thing for animals. And I think just hold on to that as the number one fact. And then just build up from there. I think for a lot of people, it needs to feel like it's not a big deal in order to be sustainable. So that might mean,
right,
you know, just veganizing, you know, the standard recipes that you love. So if your favorite food is, you know, chili, then just make a vegan chili. Or if it's spaghetti bolognese, because, you know, make a vegan spaghetti bolognese. So then you feel like you're basically still having the same thing, and you don't feel like it's this big sacrifice where you've had to overhaul your entire life. So I think that's the big thing. Yeah, make it easy. If you don't want to do it all at once, don't. Just start making some switches, and then with, you know, with each switch, hopefully you'll feel more confident and you can try the next thing. So that might mean, you know, switch to a plant-based milk, you know, switch to a plant-based yogurt.
Right.
Again, I think whatever it takes, and just, you know, don't beat yourself up along the way. Just be very celebrate, you know, all the changes you're making, and hopefully you're going to feel much better. And the really fun thing is you can then spend hours and hours on Instagram looking at vegan food bloggers and all the delicious things they make, right? Of which there are so many. There are so many. And you get really inspired.
Yes, and then on TikTok as well, it gets to be a little addicting. I'm like, I want all of these things now.
Yeah, I mean, don't look at it if you're hungry, right? Because then you're like, oh, I want everything.
Yes.
I've been vegan. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I've been vegan almost 9.5 years, and even I'll get on like Instagram and pull up like vegan dinner and just walk around going, what am I gonna have tonight? Try to find just to make it the most easiest possible.
Because there is so much choice, isn't there?
Oh, there is.
You know, if anyone thought, oh, there's not really much I can eat as a vegan, you just look at any of the brilliant bloggers that are out there, and you just don't even know where to start. I think that, you know, in terms of recipes, there is so much out there. I guess that's another thing. You know, if you're ever stuck, I mean, you can just search for any recipe you wanted in the world, and there'll be 100 vegan versions of it now.
Absolutely.
You know, there really is so much choice, isn't there?
There really is. And I find it so interesting that your advice for building a sustainable vegan wardrobe is kind of the same as going vegan for your diet. You know, take it small, one step at a time. You know, both of them fit. Like, I think that's so interesting.
Go with the basics.
Yep. Yeah. Wow, that interesting. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about fashion and all of those other things. Is there anything else you would like to talk about? Like any upcoming projects, any, you know, I don't know, sales, or anything you want to promote that you want to talk about?
Well, do you know, I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, I guess just in general, obviously, we're coming up to Christmas and the festive season. And that traditionally, I think, is a time when people go crazy, right, in terms of buying stuff.
Yes.
So I think, you know, again, if you're trying to think about how do I have a more ethical and sustainable lifestyle, this is actually a really good time to do that, I would say, because it's a great time to start having fun with the switches you can make. So, you know, think about, you know, who would you normally buy from? What kind of stuff would you normally buy for them? And would you just kind of end up going to Amazon, or just, you know, just buying things because you think you have to buy loads of things for somebody? Right. And can you start to go, actually, no, I'm going to do things differently this year, right? So that might mean, instead of buying, I don't know, 5 things for your partner, maybe you just get one, but you get it, you know, maybe you buy it secondhand, or you buy just one really high quality thing. We have lots of lovely gift guides, by the way, to help inspire you. But you don't have to come to us. That's not a hard plug. So yeah, just I think just trying, thinking about how can I do things differently this year that mean that, you know, every choice we make really does make a difference, right?
Exactly.
In the world, I think we can feel very powerless a lot of the time in terms of the climate crisis and all the suffering we see in terms of animals and all those things, and that can feel very disheartening. But really, every meal you have and every purchase you make is a chance to make a difference, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think it's just approaching it in that way. And, you know, buying things for the festive season is exactly the same. You know, with everything you buy or that you don't buy, you have a chance to actually do something different and make an impact. So yeah, that's what I do. I think use this time of year as a really exciting time to start making those changes.
Very good.
I love that. That's a great way to end this interview. Inspiring people to invest in something that's a more sustainable, more vegan, not just for yourself, but for other people too. Even if they're not vegan, this could be a way to kind of get them into the vegan world, get them a really pretty
purse. Yes.
I mean, come on.
You're right, actually. Yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right. That's the best thing, actually, isn't it? It's your chance to actually start influencing other people in a really nice way by getting them something lovely.
Exactly.
And then maybe, and maybe them being really surprised when they find out it's vegan. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yes. And my tip I always give is also bring a vegan snack. So if you give them a present, give them something edible as well, because now they get to try something vegan that's tasty. So it's always my trick to kind of get people interested.
I like it. Sneaky, but very effective.
That's me.
Sneaky but effective.
Exactly.
That's about right.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Thanks, David. Thanks.
Adequate description. Yes.
I think that's excellent.
Oh, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've learned so much, especially about the interesting vegan materials. Like, I really can't wait to look into the different options, not just that you have, but that are available across the world. I think that's going to make a big difference in the future. And I'm excited to see what else, like what other random products they can use to make materials. It's so interesting that they are using like apple skins. I mean, things I never would have thought of.
I know, it is amazing, isn't it? And I think, in a couple of years, there'll be 10 more new materials that will be out there that will be, mainstream. So I think that, it's a very exciting time, isn't it?
It's very really interesting. So I hope that this conversation encourages people to do their own research, look into things, and of course, look at the beautiful products on immaculatevegan.com, obviously. Is there any Instagram, Facebook, or anywhere else that they can find you and follow you and give you love?
Absolutely. We are on all of them, or we're not on TikTok, but we are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, perfect. So we encourage everyone to follow and of course go shopping on immaculatevegan.com. And again, we are so thankful that you took time today to talk to us and school us about vegan fashion. We've both learned a whole bunch, and I know I'm definitely adding some stuff to my Christmas list. I have a list already. I literally have like 5 things sitting in front of me, but now I have more because you've mentioned so many interesting things. So I appreciate it again, and it's been wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for being on. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye.